Densatil is so important because it really was at the high point of Tibetan history. They were great patrons and really took the opportunity to create monuments and commission sculpture that is really at the very high point of their artistic achievement within Tibet. So there was the tradition of creating these tashi gomang, these commemorative stupas, for the abbots who had recently passed. So as we understand, there was a series of 8 tashi gomang. They were embellished with deities relating to very important central figures, basically created a mandala. Each tashi gomang had anywhere between 2,000 to 3,000 independently cast sculptures attached to it. So it's heavily described by people who lived at the time, people up until the middle of the 20th century, as really one of the most amazing spectacles. So this figure of Virupaksha, he's the guardian of the West, and he would have been positioned on the western gate of the mandala. And we know this from the black and white photographs taken in 1948 by Melee of the stupa literally right next door. But also, as you see here in his left hand, is what's called a naga, a representation of a snake, and he was responsible for controlling the underworld, the aquatic world, of which nagas came from. And here in his right hand would have been the stupa that relates to other reliquaries. You can immediately see that this is a Chinese figure, a very full face. He wears an armor that is very clearly drawn from a much earlier tradition, probably from the Tang dynasty. And what's really interesting particularly is this lapis inset element here that has a dragon carved into it, and very specifically a Chinese dragon. So all of the elements across speak to this idea of this being clearly influenced by the Chinese style, which was very much connected to what was happening in Tibet in the early 15th century. A little less reliance on the Nepalese influence. The Pala influence had already died out a little bit earlier, but through that period of almost 200 years, you see a different stylistic influence come across, but particularly here, you see a full manifestation of a clearly, purely early Ming style. I saw this sculpture when it was sold in New York in 1999. That's the last time it's ever been in the market. There's not been anything else since like it, of this scale, of this quality, of this presence. Typically they turn up, but in much smaller form. To me, this is a once-in-a-generation opportunity. This is the only one that's in private hands of this scale and of this type. The other examples are in the Gimei Museum, in the National Palace Museum in Taipei, and another example in Turin. This painting represents a portrait of the second abbot of Rinpoche Monastery, which is in eastern Tibet, and his name is Urgyen Gompo, and his whole lineage that he follows is represented in the side registers all the way across. So it's a part of a set of 5 paintings that we know of. The other paintings are once again in the Palace Museum in Taipei, Brooklyn Museum, and also the Musée Guimet, and one other that's still preserved in Tibet but not in great condition. It's unique to the Tibetan tradition to present lamas in the same way as you would do with a deity. It was very important as a commemorative idea of keeping basically their presence and their teachings alive. You do not see this in India, you do not see this in Nepal. One of the most spectacular examples that's ever come to the market. Virtually pristine, it still has its original wooden dowel at the bottom with the gesso decoration. The black silks, top and bottom, completely original, and there's been no restoration whatsoever. For something that is close to 700 years old, it's pretty remarkable that it's been preserved in such incredible condition. And particularly when you see it under raking light, you really get a sense of the lavish use of gold. It really jumps out and sparkles. Well, just to select a couple, we have this amazing portrait of Ropai Dorje, who was one of the most important lamas based in Beijing. in the 18th century, and it's a remarkable sculpture both in terms of his scale and quality. And the artist here has taken great pains to ensure that all of his garments, all of the decoration to the robe, even the cushion on which he sits on, is very finely detailed. And then also we have this fabulous figure of Vajravarahi. It's also from the Densatil monastery, from the later period that we don't see that often, and really has a tremendous sense of movement and quality.